Okay, I'm sitting in downtown Chicago with the alderman of the 27th Ward, which also happens to be my ward, Alderman Walter Red Burnett. Alderman Burnett, thank you for meeting with me today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to talk to you. So I have a lot of questions for you today, but to give people a little history, Alderman Burnett's father was the alderman of our ward, and he stepped down recently and appointed Alderman Burnett. So Alderman Burnett, you grew up in a very political family in Chicago. You watched your dad work as alderman for 30 years, is that right?
That's correct.
What lessons from that experience have shaped your ideas of leadership today for the ward?
Yeah, come from a family of public servants.
Oh, really?
My dad was the alderman. My mother was a former Cook County commissioner.
Oh, yeah, I think I knew that.
My brother is a state representative. But beyond that,
Wow.
everyone in my family, for the most part, has worked in government in some capacity. We had members who worked for streets and sanitation. My grandfather was a truck driver for streets and sanitation, which is how my father got involved in government and politics to begin with. My grandmother worked for my dad in helping out with the elderly. And I have a slew of cousins and uncles who also have worked in government in some capacity. So service has just been ingrained in my family on both sides, my mother and my father's side, for my entire life. And when you say growing up watching my dad in service, it kind of is just who I am and who I see myself as. Everything we did was rooted in service. How can you help out your community, your neighbor, your family member, whomever? Because what's important to my family and to me is just making sure that the world that we live in is better. And we're rooted in faith and in our community, and being in a position to serve others is the closest way to be to God, in our opinion. So it's been awesome to see my dad do it for 30 years. We come from a line of a political organization that started in the 42nd Ward back when Cabrini Green was a part of that ward. And it's really how my dad got into the 27th alderman's position. It's because in 1994 or 93, right when they did the remap, the 27th Ward adopted Cabrini Green into the community. And so when you look at our ward map, it's a little funky. I call it like a backwards T-Rex because you have that node in the near north side that had so many public housing homes from the Cabrini Green neighborhood that bridged the gap to the west side of Chicago. So the 27th Ward is very unique because we have some of the most public housing, both in terms of actual Chicago Housing Authority structures, as well as vouchers in the city of Chicago. And that is a big reason why my family got involved in the first place. My father and my grandparents resided in Cabrini Green. That's where he was raised alongside his siblings, and that is his home community. And so when we think about, and when I think about what service and leadership means, it's making sure that we look out for those who need and those who don't have the opportunity to represent themselves. And the leadership that we saw from my father's mentors, Jesse White and former Cook County Board President George Dunn, is that you care for all people regardless of what they look like and regardless of what they do. And it takes a connected community to build together, and leadership is about connecting with people and bringing people to the table.
I just interviewed the National Public Housing Museum for my last segment. So have you been over there yet?
I haven't been over there quite yet.
Very
I heard it's
cool.
great.
Yeah, I went to UIC for college, and I watched them build it like while I was in school, and I had been waiting for it to open, but it took them a really long time. I think it took them almost 15 years because I graduated in 2011 and it still wasn't done. Yeah, it's very cool. You should go over there. So you were saying that the way that the ward was mapped has an interesting story. What's the story behind that?
Yeah, so the reason my father got into the position of 27th Ward is because of a remapping. Every 10 years, Chicago has to remap the districts. And historically, the 27th Ward was a west side ward, primarily West Humboldt Park, East Garfield Park, the near west side and what is now West Loop. At that point in time, it wasn't much of anything but industrial buildings. And in the 90 remap period, the near north side was added to the 27th Ward.
Mm-hmm.
The west side had started to experience some decline in population after the King riots in the 60s and 70s, and so you start to see that taper off. And so with the north side experiencing so much of a boom, to rebalance the wards, they took out Cabrini Green from the 42nd Ward, which is the organization my father originally came from, with George Dunn and Jesse White, and put Cabrini Green in the 27th Ward. And that is what really became the bridge of what the 27th Ward is today. It was a bunch of public housing and industrial property that nobody really wanted. And what we see now is that it is transforming in such a vibrant community with a ton of assets, from the beautiful parks we have, from Union Park to Garfield Park, connected to, adjacent to Humble Park, and also Seward Park. We have Seward Park as well. But we also have a ton of job opportunities in our ward, in our district. You have the medical district that's a part of the 27th Ward, the Kinsey Industrial Corridor, Goose Island, and more recently, the budding industry that has been building in Fulton Market, West Loop. So 30 years ago, this ward it was very different than what it is today. And it's a really cool reflection of what the city can be, as well as a reflection of what our history is, both good and bad.
Yeah, that is super interesting. When I was a teenager, I worked at a hair salon in Fulton Market, but back then it was still very industrial. I remember I would be walking to work from Halstead and just like, it smelled like fish.
Yeah.
Like it was just like rotting fish smell going to work, and I'm going
Peoria
to this
meat market
hair.
right there.
Yeah.
You got fish right there.
Yeah, it was not exactly pleasant. So the difference over there is crazy now. How do you support neighborhoods that are more in need of development with the focus on like West Loop, Fulton Market, neighborhoods like that have a ton of development going on already?
Absolutely. It's one of the biggest challenges I personally face as an alderman, is figuring out what that balance is. As you noted, we have a ton of historical communities of people who've been in the ward or in their neighborhoods for 2, 3, 4 generations. And it's extremely important to take into their consideration of what's happening. What I try to do is be fair in that middle ground, because where we're located in the city, change is just bound to happen. The question is, how does it change? At what rate does it change? And does the community have an impact? Gentrification is a big problem when the community doesn't have a say or an economic piece of the pie of the things that are changing. What we look to do as an organization and as a ward office is to make sure that the community members who are there have an ability to partake in the benefits of the change. We don't want to displace anyone. We want to figure out new opportunities to build a better life in areas that need development and need growth and opportunities. But we don't want to isolate the ones who've been there. I think the way United States real estate has worked historically is that it's accommodated new people who have wealth at the expense of those who've been there early and don't necessarily have the same opportunity set that is coming with this change. And I see that as a real problem. In the business world, if you were to invest early in a stock, you reap magnificent benefits. Your dividends and your stock prices go up, and you have a real economic boom for being early. Yet we punish people for being early to a community because we increase their taxes, we increase often their rents, we don't necessarily provide them opportunities to generate new income to sustain themselves in these communities. So it's one of the goals I have as an elected official, is figuring out how do we rebalance the equation to make sure that we are investing in the people who invested early into our community.
Are there specific commercial areas or small business corridors that you're hoping to nurture or grow?
All of them.
Yeah.
Small businesses are really the lifeblood of our city. You know, our economy has changed. We're a service economy, yet we haven't really been able to provide services to the areas of the city that make sense. So in your community in Garfield Park, you don't see a ton of businesses that you would request or like to have as somebody who lives in the neighborhood. Laundry stores, nail salons, clothing stores, even grocery stores are missing. Some of that has to do with the way that our broader national economy has been structured and the benefits that big national tech companies get in terms of scale and accessibility and ease. We haven't really figured out as a city or a nation how do we incentivize businesses to be physically present. Yet we know that people are demanding it even more so. So it's one of my big initiatives to figure out how do we remove some of the structural issues we have, whether it's with our zoning or our business codes, similar to some of the challenges we have with housing and why our zoning code incentivizes developers to build 400 square foot 1-bedrooms instead of 3-bedroom units. We have some of those challenges with our retail, and it's geared towards both the rental prices but how we tax them. Most people aren't aware that when a retail landlord gets property taxes, it's passed through to the business at usually 100%. And that burden, as we continue to see less retail businesses in our city, ends up swelling for those who are there, especially the small business ones. So there could be some adjustment in the way that we tax those businesses and entities, thinking of it more of like a small business scale versus a unilateral business real estate tax. And some of it is business education. How are we as a city preparing young business and entrepreneurs to adapt to the current business environment? Are we giving them the resources and training on how to utilize technology? Are we preparing them with the right resources to engage with the building department and think about cost? Are we training them on what grant programs and debt programs are out there? And if they're going to utilize debt, how are we putting them in a situation where they aren't over leveraging their business and putting themselves in harm's way? So I'm a big believer in small businesses. I think it is the way that our cities really flourish. It not only provides opportunity to get entertainment or provide key services or resources, but it provides jobs and gives people purpose for what they do in their lives. And to do it at a local level is the most important thing to me.
So it's sad seeing the character and individuality of Chicago stripped away over the decades, to see all the small businesses closing and all of the corporations coming in. And it's been interesting talking to you today about, it just seems like your idea of how to help community meets with your business background, and a lot of the things that you support are instilling business as a means of growth for individuals in Chicago in general. One thing I liked about Garfield Park when I moved there, and this might sound kind of odd, but I did like the open space. It feels a little bit nice. You don't feel quite as congested. But I saw photos of the neighborhood back before the 70s and the 60s, and I was genuinely shocked to see the corridor of Madison, California looking like a major shopping district. Do you have ideas about bringing that type of vibrancy back to the neighborhood?
Absolutely. So the Department of Planning and the Mayor's office have been working on a Madison Street corridor reimagined. And it leans on that old imagery of what Madison was before the 60s. A vibrant community that allows itself to thrive off of what's there. I spent almost 10 years living in New York. Majority of my time was in the Bronx. Most people don't know that the Bronx retail corridor is a top 5 retail corridor in the country. And when you think of the Bronx, you think of not necessarily extremely well-off individuals like you would think of in Manhattan.
Right.
And that's because it was a community strip that majority of the people who live in that area would go to and shop at. Chicago had that type of regional diversification in our shopping markets in the 50s and 60s. A lot of decisions were made in order to kind of strip that away. But what we do know now is that not only do people want it, they need it. They need it to be able to feel connected to their community, to have that sense of identity, to have access to jobs in their own neighborhoods. And so I'm looking forward to working with the Department of Planning and the Mayor's office to figure out how do we continue to revitalize Madison Street. But it's not just Madison Street. We have to figure out some other ancillary corridors within the neighborhood in order to allow for that more community-based feeling, whether that is California or Sacramento that has restaurants on their streets, or a jewelry store, a bookstore. How are we connecting people to public transit, and how are we encouraging them to walk around in these neighborhoods?
I don't know if sad is the right word, but it's kind of interesting when you're saying like a bookstore, a jewelry store, like those types of things didn't even occur to me as something that might come into the neighborhood because it is so sparse of just like things to do, places to go, businesses. We're getting the music school, which is kind of cool.
Bandwidth.
Yes.
Love Bandwidth.
Yeah, I'm excited about. Oh wait, they opened, right? They opened recently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they
so
opened
that's
recently.
exciting.
They're grantee award winner from our most recent NOF grant fund. They're doing great work over there.
Yeah, it seems very cool. When did they open? Like 2 months ago?
They opened in November, late November.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I mean, it seems like there's exciting things going on. One of my friends actually works in urban planning, and he sent me the Madison project that's going on, and I don't know, there's a lot of exciting things happening.
There are a lot of exciting possibilities.
Yeah.
I think it's my role as an alderman to make sure that those possibilities come into action. And growing up on the West Side, it means close. It's so close to my heart that we figure out a way to keep those residents there and figure out how we bring more people in to see how awesome it is. How do we continue to establish a West Side identity? What was so cool about the regionalism of the 2000s is that there was so much pride about where people were from. Chicago, Atlanta, LA, New York, wherever, but there was a distinctiveness to the culture. And I think with the way technology and national brands have proliferated across our country, we all have this kind of monolith of what culture is at this point in time. Yet I feel like there is a desire and a real capability to bring back local identity. Absolutely,
I agree with you. There's that whole campaign to speak about New York where it's like bring the New York accent back. Yeah, globalization is real and definitely impacts like all these different aspects of our lives. How do you hope to honor your father's legacy while also building your own voice, priorities, and identity as an alderman?
Yeah, it's a great question. When I think about my father's legacy as alderman, I think about how underrated he was as an affordable housing builder in the city. It is some crazy stat, around 50%, I want to say, of affordable housing that was built in the city in his tenure was in the 27th Ward. And that is a true testament to somebody who cares about those who don't have the means to carry themselves in this current economy.
Right.
And as a testament to his legacy, I'm continuing that tradition, enforcing and making sure that developers are including their fair share of affordable housing on their projects and trying to figure out new ways to have more long-lasting and consistent affordable housing as times get tough for a lot of individuals. When it comes to creating my own impact in this ward, I lean on my previous experience. Being a banker, being a real estate private equity guy, I understand the nuances of what legal and zoning can mean for large-scale development, but from a smaller developer as well. And across our city, we have piecemeal one-off zoning that prohibits people from actually doing good work in these neighborhoods. So
what's an example of that?
An example is on Washington, down past California, between California and Sacramento, there is a lot in the center of a block that is zoned industrial around all residential. So does it make sense for a empty lot that is industrial zoned around surrounded by housing
Right.
to build a industrial complex in that particular area? No, it doesn't. So you're preventing people who want to do good and build in an area that needs more housing from doing so in an affordable manner. When individuals have to pay lawyers for zoning changes and administrative adjustment changes, all of those costs are bared by the end user. So there are things that we can do to make business easier, development easier, but also make it cheaper for our constituent base. And my goal is to make sure that we are making government more digestible and less bureaucratic. And that would be my impact.
Love it. If you could look back years from now and point to one major initiative or improvement that reflects your vision for the ward, what would you like it to be?
The revitalization of East Garfield Park. As I noted, I spent a lot of time in East Garfield Park. My grandmother home was there. I had a ton of cousins in the community. Yet, as much time as I spent on that street of Maypole, it didn't feel as welcoming as a child to walk around the entire neighborhood. I want kids in that community to feel safe walking around their entire neighborhood.
Right.
And it's important for me to see the growth and the development of that community to a level where people feel like they're able to go see their friend 4 or 5 blocks away, go to Bandwidth to have a music class, or go to Sky Art and paint. And their parents know that they're safe walking to those communities alone and coming back. If I look back in 10 years and see that Garfield Park, East Garfield Park, is a vibrant, holistic, stable, sustainable community, I would feel like I've done my part.
I love that. Well, that is all the questions I have for you, and I'm really excited to have you as our alderman. I'm excited to see how your campaign grows over the next couple years. Thank you so much for meeting with me.
Thank you for having me.